There are many things to explore when it comes to the Romans, but we can get a little more personal by getting to the heart of Rome. Well, more like the stomach. Not only will we know what and how they ate, we'll also explore some recipes. To start, Roman food was known to be simple. Roman food inevitably had its similarities to Greek food, but it later adopted culinary methods from foreign countries as the empire expanded. It consisted largely of sweet and sour tastes. Popular ingredients included honey, vinegar, olive oil, and wine. The Roman diet, as does current diet, also depends on your place in society. For example, rich people would use wheat. If you were poor, you would use millet, and all of them would use barley. Today, these foods compose the Mediterranean triad. As you can see, Romans consumed many carbohydrates, protein, healthy fat, and antioxidants, so their food was fairly healthy. Looks like the Romans would love LA.
Someone ate my salad.
You mean the salad in the fridge?
So it was you.
What?
How else would you know where the salad was, Chloe?
That's where all salads are, Kim.
Let's go into where the magic happens. The focus was a portable open earth owned by richer Romans. It was found in front of the home's terrarium, which was a shrine for the household's guardian spirits. Religious offerings, like food, were offered in daily rituals in order to honor their home's guardians of protection, continue the family line, and honor the gods of the floor. Richer Romans also owned separate kitchens. Their kitchens were detached from their homes and either had no roof or a ceiling with holes for ventilation. They had their bread baked in their furnace, which was a dome or square oven made of brick. They also hung cooking utensils such as knives, pans, pots, jugs, graters, and tongs. The utensils are made of bone, wood, bronze, or iron. Handy that your next chicken can be a meal and a new addition to the kitchen. The idea of an ancient kitchen is cute. However, reality is most Romans couldn't afford a kitchen and shared open kitchens around town. From bathing together and cooking together, Romans do love group activities. When it comes to handling the food, the Romans did an efficient job of preserving food to avoid food poisoning and to protect imports. Meat and fish were smoked and salted, and fish and shellfish were usually transported from outside of the city, so they were kept alive in tanks. Wild animals were also transported, but they were held in cages before slaughter. Also, fruits were eaten fresh in the summer, but were dried in preparation for the winter. As mentioned, your place in society can decide what your plates are going to look like, and that includes how many times you'd see your plate. The upper class were able to have the luxury of 3 meals a day, and as your class label goes down, then it becomes how many meals you can afford in a day.
Well, maybe I don't need your money. Wait, I said maybe!
Breakfast, also called jentaculum, was had in the early morning. A normal breakfast consisted of salted bread, milk or wine, dried fruit, egg, or cheese. Bread was served with meat or fish, as well as fresh fruit and vegetables that were drizzled with honey. However, the lower class had bread with cheese or olive dipped in wine to soften the bread. Lunch, or prandium, or also called cena, was eaten in the late morning or early afternoon. This meal wasn't important since it was just leftovers from the main meal of the day before, and it was usually fish or fresh fruit. Dinner was called vesperna and was often in the form of dinner parties that were hosted by the rich.
It's as if all he knows is fine dining and breathing!
There was a main meal, which was very important for family and friends. It was held in the host's triclinium in order to show off their wealth, so skip the Gucci and Supreme and just have a really big feast on your next flex. Dinner was served in 3 courses, accompanied with wine, of course, as this was a social occasion. The main course, prime mensae, was a variety of roasted and boiled meats with sauce that was thickened with wheat flour and flavored with honey or seasoning. The gourmet foods included fattened snails, dormice, pigeons, and rare meat like peacocks. How long it took to get all those feathers off beats me. Dessert, which is also called mensae secundae, wasn't as important, but guests were served sweetmeats, pastries, dried or fresh fruit, and nuts. These dinner parties had 9 guests to symbolize the 9 Roman muses, and the guests sat and reclined on couches at a grand squared table, with the 4th side of the table left open for serving. They ate with their right hand and leaned on their left arm for support. Guess Roman etiquette wasn't accommodating to all the left-handers.
You can't sit with us!
The food was served in fine bronze, pewter or red terra sigillata platters, while wine was served in small cups of glass, terra sigillata or pewter. And what's a better way to end the parties? Oh, dinners, my bad. With more wine and entertainment like dancers. Who was cooking with what, you may ask? Well, all of this food was prepared by slaves and cooks, and they were cooked over charcoal stoves. The sauces were mixed using moriturium, which was a special bowl for mixing. And don't know about you, but we would not want to be in charge of these dishes. Now, while dinner's a party for our rich friends in Rome, poorer or most Romans usually had one meal a day. They had flatbread, vegetable soup, porridge, lentils, cucumbers, onions, garlic, lettuce, apples, figs, nuts, and on occasion, cheese and eggs. For the poor, meat was a luxury. Only the poor living in the countryside had meat, as they were able to hunt and fish. They also had prepared their own food, but they didn't own kitchens. They either cooked their food in the local baker's oven or on an open fire. They also ate their meals standing up or sitting at a table. The most common meal they had was porridge, called poules. Poules was made with emmer, olive oil, and herbs. Now that we know about what a day of food looks like, let's get into the details of the popular menus.
Remember, ravioli, ravioli, give me the formuoli.
The Romans baked pies and pastries, but the most important baked good was bread. Bread was so important that it was free for the unemployed. White bread was the most valued since dark flour was given to unimportant guests. Thankfully, the bread rights movement changed that, and now dark and white bread is served equally. Anyway, bread was originally baked from emmer, but wheat was introduced during the expansion of the empire. Flour was also quite coarse and not purely refined like ours today. Ta-da! Our first recipe, honey cakes. To make honey cakes last, we take what the Greeks call yeast. You mix the yeast with the flour and the honey when making the cookie dough. You do this and somehow you end up with something like this. If only baking these days was this simple. Next, we have legumes, vegetables, and fruits. Romans had beans, peas, and lentils that were added into the soups. They grew vegetables such as cabbage, celery, kale, broccoli, radishes, asparagus, yellow squash, carrots, turnips, beets, green peas, and cucumber. Romans also ate apples, figs, grapes, pears, and olives. It was important to know how to keep them as well. To keep green olives, you place them in brine, and having been kept in brine for some time, they can be used as if they had just come off the tree, and afterwards you can make green oil from them. To keep grapes, you take perfect grapes from the vines, place the grapes in a vessel, and pour rainwater that has been boiled down 1/3 of its volume over them. The vessel must be pitched and sealed with plaster and kept in a cool place to which the sun has no access. The grapes will be fresh whenever you need them. You can serve the water as honey mead to the sick as well. If you cover the grapes with barley or bran, they will be sound and uninjured. Keep the grapes in cork shavings, bran, and sawdust. Nobody wants the grapes injured, and that would be a weird trip to the emergency room. Time to get into the meat of things, literally. Fish and seafood were the most affordable meats. Sardines, tuna, and sea bass were widely available. Shellfish was used sparingly since fish or meat was preferred. However, Romans, when they did, they had salted oysters, whelks, cockles, mussels, and limpets. Oysters, cockles, and mussels were also stored in barrels of brine for storage. Romans commonly had chicken since pork, lamb, and beef were consumed by the rich. The rich also had delicacies like rodents, but specifically dormice. Love the mice.
Hey. You got alcohol? Come on in.
Romans are famous for their wine, but their wine was actually diluted with water since the alcohol volume was much higher than our wine today. The wine was diluted in order to prevent drunken behavior during the day, which is a tip for all of our day drinkers out there.
Mommy doesn't get drunk, she just has fun.
The wine recipe we have to share isn't actually a wine, but more used as a laxative medicine, which in our defense, regular wine can do just the same. To make rose wine, also called rosatum, the ingredients you need are rose petals with the lower white part removed, and only the best petals free from dew will be used for the soaking. You sew the petals into a linen bag and immerse them in wine for 7 days. Then you add a sack of new petals to draw for another 7 days. Remove the old petals and replace them with fresh ones for another 7 days. Strain the wine through the colander, and before serving, you can add honey to sweeten the taste if you like. Moreover, Molson was a very popular form of wine made by adding honey. In the winter, Romans drank calda, which was wine mixed with warm water and spices for warmth. Pasca was popular amongst the lower class as it was consumed by farmers and soldiers by mixing wine with water, vinegar, honey, spices, and herbs. And as you can guess, the upper class despised this drink due to the vinegary taste. Guess money really shapes your taste buds.
Yay, me!
The most barbaric drinks were beer and milk. Beer was popular in the northern provinces, and drinking milk was actually frowned upon because it was used mainly for cooking. There is much to explore about Roman cuisine, and hopefully this video was able to provide you with them. Romans proved to have rich culture that is still popularly studied, and it includes not only what, but how and why they ate the things in the way they did. As they say, you are what you eat, so what better way to get to know Rome than by looking at their plates?